Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. But
Ow, 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 ow.
I am so glad. Welcome to another episode of Dualistic Unity Real with Jackie and Amanda, live 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today on Friday, December 8th. And it's a day. It's a day for sure, and I'm barely keeping it together.
Yep, it's definitely a day for sure. That we can all agree on. I'm excited to be here today. I'm feeling in a silly, goofy mood a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit more lighthearted and um like giggly about things. I know sometimes I can come on here and be like, I don't know what's going on. Please turn it off. This is so much. But today I'm feeling like I'm just laughing my way through it. I'm dancing through it. And yeah, I'm coming up on the last weekend of my yoga teacher training, so I'm just like really excited and grateful and like reflective a lot, but also like stressed out a little bit. um but all good things. All good things. Or at least I'm enjoying myself right now. I don't know where they're going. I never do. But as long as I'm having fun right now, it's all that really matters, right?
Mhm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because I know the people who have a life that I used to envy greatly. And when I got a chance to talk to them about their life, they still are going through the same challenges, right? So I thought, they're so wealthy, they have all this opportunity, they have a greater capacity to influence their direct experience. And they were still struggling with insecurities and, you know, uh, that lack of fulfillment, and they had all the things that I thought provided that. And so it was like I was meeting successful people that were unfulfilled, and I always thought that success and fulfillment were the same thing. And it is not. It almost feels like the butt of a bad joke, but at least I'm laughing. At least we can be silly about it and just know that you can have a life that you may not always think is fantastic. You may not label it fantastic, but you can still have fun regardless of your opinion. You can still enjoy what is available, what's there.
Yeah. And I'm reminded of this constantly in my life when I'm looking forward to a situation in my life. Like I remember like 6 months ago, I was looking forward to like being done with yoga teacher training and like living on my own finally for the first time, like after moving out of my parents' house. And I just idealized this time of my life so much. And it is great. Yeah, I'm loving it. But you always do taste the like bitter aftertaste of expectation
Mhm.
because like why am I making why am I constantly making these like false promises to myself or something that like, oh yeah, like once I'm there, then I can relax, then I will be fine. Like I just have to get there. But no, it's just the process of it happening and that's going to happen however it is going to happen.
Yeah.
And attaching to expectations about outcomes is only ever going to lead to disappointment because you just can't know. You can't know the future ever. And life is always just going to be this, I feel like. It's like just an equal mix of both. You know, all different flavors are on the table, all experiences are available to you. And, you know, different ones are going to pop up at different points in time in different situations. And you can't control or change them once you're faced with them. So your only real option is to tense up or to relax and accept it and then just deal with it. Because that's just how life's going to be. And you're going to just have to keep dealing with reality, even though you wish you could continue to live in your dream world about how you think the future is going to be amazing, or even if it's a nightmare, you know, thinking about how it's going to be doomsday, like eventually you're still going to have to face that day. And you're actually only really setting yourself back by overthinking and doubting and yeah, just not having faith in yourself. Like you're like putting one of your hands behind your back and making yourself less able to deal with the situation because you just don't have the mental capacity because your brain is just going crazy in there. And you don't have to live like that. Like you can just disempower those thoughts by being like, you don't know what you're talking about anyway, and moving the fuck on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely true. It's it's humbling. It definitely feels extremely humbling when I think about all the stress that I put myself through that I didn't have to. I'm like, oh, what the fuck, Amanda? But then I laugh because I'm like, but rainy days help me appreciate sunny days. You know, falling flat on my face because I was running too fast um, helps me appreciate taking my time. You know, so as much as I want to curse past Amanda for her lack of wisdom and her poor decision making, it's like no, I it was a part of the learning process. Just like when we think back to when we think back towards learning how to walk, there was no way to learn how to walk without the stumbling, without the falling, without you know, kissing the floor, without, you know, without a first date. It was like, oh my goodness. But but when we were learning how to walk, there wasn't a judgment for every stumble. There wasn't an opinion that was made for every misstep. It was just, I wanted to walk more than I cared about the stumble. And so I didn't focus on the stumble. I didn't focus on when I fell flat up. I focused on where I wanted my attention to be, and where my attention was in that moment was in moving from point A to point B and in walking. And then one day I was victorious and we made it to that bowl of Cheetos. And so that's what my mom tells me, that, you know, we made our first steps towards a bowl of Cheetos. And I always joke with my family, I was like, it's so hard to find good help. I knew then. I knew that then. I knew I had, if I want Cheetos, damn it, I need to get them myself. Then there's a picture of me like 10 months old, and I'm just like in a sea of Cheetos, like on the floor around me. And I'm just like so happy. And it was not a
Please
graceful walk.
find this image. Please find this image. I need to see this.
Oh.
It's gonna be my new wallpaper.
Oh my god. Oh my god, but I just love that. Like you didn't care about falling. You wanted to walk, and so you just focused on what you wanted to do, and then you did it. I'm seeing in our comments, we've got a few people, and so hi everybody. It's good to see you. Someone writes, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. And I'm like, the edge of expectation, you know, like the edge of just attention. Like I'm just like the edge of identity, right? And so my mind goes like, what edge? What edge are we talking about? And it's like maybe it is the edge of identity where it's not something that I can't ever make use of, but it's not the only thing that needs consideration. It's just another tool. You know, my identity, my character is just another tool that I get to experience reality through. And then sometimes I can take off the costume and just exist without it.
I'm just honestly trying to process what that question means. I'm like thinking, if you're not wait, that's not a question, it's a
No, no, no.
statement.
There
If
was just
you're
a
not
comment.
oh, if you're living on the edge, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. I think you're thinking about it too much. um,
Our listeners might be high. You know, they might be that as well.
yeah, there's a couple there's a couple concepts going on here that I'm not following. There's another question though. Wait, real quick before I get to this question. You mentioned wait, Jay said in the comments, life is all about how we respond to getting some Cheetos. And that made me remember this story actually from when I was a kid. I was in elementary school. Um, And my sister, I remember we were like sharing a big bag of hot Cheetos. And for some reason, she got mad at me. So she decided, okay, yeah, none of us are going to have the hot Cheetos. And she threw them out on the roof. And so I climbed out the window and like climbed up onto the roof and got the hot Cheetos. And I was sitting there on the roof eating them. And and my mom drove up and saw me up there on the roof, and then I got grounded for a month. So that
For being a whole raccoon, like straight up, just like scavenging, and then getting the bag, and then just eating it on the roof. I love those moments, like, because I've been there, like maybe not on the roof, but definitely like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the kitchen, not supposed to be in the kitchen. I'm eating something. My mom walks in, like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like,
Oh yeah, you can always catch me sneaking in a after midnight snack.
"Oh my
Um,
god,
or
yes."
just honestly, the things I do for hot chips specifically. One time I walked with my friend in high school, we walked like 30 minutes in the rain to the gas station to get a bag of Takis.
I love
Um,
cookies. What am I like?
that's how you know I grew up in Southern California. That's yeah. That was anywho, we can get back to the questions now. If I tense up, can I blame others? That's a good question because I understand where you're coming from. I used to really project my triggers onto everybody else and expect them to remember that I would be triggered about certain things and to not bringing them up, or when I was triggered about something and I got tense, I just at the end of the day would blame it on the other person. And you can blame them for it, but will it help your situation? No. The only thing that's going to help your your being triggered is you looking at that and realizing that I can't control anybody else. The only thing that I control is my experience, and if I'm feeling some type of way about that person living their life, doing whatever they're doing, you don't even know what their motivations are. I feel like 9 times out of 10 people aren't trying to hurt you, but or, trigger you, but people aren't constantly thinking about you the way you are. So, it's ultimately your responsibility at the end of the day to look at where those triggers are coming from, and that can be a really difficult thing to do and like to take responsibility for them. But what I found is that the more that I allow those feelings of being tense to just be and like allow them to exist without trying to resist, they kind of pass a little bit easier. And it's kind of paradoxical, I know, but the solution to tension isn't tensing up in response, because then that's just doubling the tension. When if you relax, eventually the tension will pass and you have a more capacity to handle that and handle those emotions without responding in a habitual way than you think.
Mhm.
And I think we don't know how much we can hold. Like we don't know how much we can experience and still be okay. And so we think the solution is to blow up on somebody else, but really that's just reinforcing that behavior pattern of you of not taking responsibility for your own emotions. So, um, yeah, that's my thoughts about that. What do you think, Amanda?
I resonate with a lot of what you're saying, that it's passing off the responsibility for how you feel to someone else, and 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 then pretending that you're powerless to that, like someone makes you feel sad or someone makes you angry. It's like they don't. You just happen to think that things should be differently, and in thinking that it should be different, you're upset that it's not different. And and it's not that, or it's not only that. So you can absolutely blame anyone else, but that doesn't change the situation that you're blaming them for. And that's definitely what kind of motivated me to stop blaming people for the way that I felt, and I redirected that attention towards, well, what could I actually do? As much as I could curse someone out, as much as I could blame someone else, I'm still pissed. I'm still in that situation that I cursed them and all their sons for, like, oh my goodness. It's just, once you're done with that part, it's like, okay, well, I'm still here and I don't want to be. Okay, well, then what can we actually do? And usually what we do has nothing to do, has everything to do with yourself. How are you spending your time? How are you responding? What expectations do you have of other people? Do you really think that everyone is supposed to be walking on eggshells so that they don't upset you? And even if they were, then you wouldn't have respect for them. You wouldn't even want to be around people because, there's not, the yes men of the world don't really get much respect. People that just say yes, that just comply, that just kiss ass, those people we tend to look down on that group. And so you don't want to be surrounded by yes men. And you don't need to be, because it's not a life or death situation. And the analogy or the little nickname that I like to give myself is like, are we having a Chicken Little moment? Is the sky falling right now because I didn't get my way? Oh, the agony, the despair. How will I go on? There's no hope. The light has been extinguished. Like, it's like, as much as I can feel super dramatic or super theatrical about something or not getting my way, ultimately we have to get over it, because I'd rather focus on trying to do something else with my time, do something else with my attention, than stay focused on a closed door. There are so many other open
Mhm.
doors I could walk through. Why am I crying about one locked door or one closed door? It's not opening. And no matter how much I sit in front of that door, it is not opening. So I can always move somewhere else. I don't have to sit in that agony that I put myself through.
I'm just thinking how clear it is that it's impossible that not everybody can have their own way. Like, imagine like a world where you had your own way, right? Everything you wanted was just what was. You would be completely and utterly alone, and you're right, it would be boring as shit. But also, like, all of if all of us in the world could get everything that we wanted, which is what a lot of people want, is to get everything they want. They think they deserve to get everything they want. Not everybody can get exactly what they want, because there's so many conflicting perspectives about good and bad, right and wrong. Like, there's so many different opinions that they couldn't exist in one world together. And so it's almost beautiful that, like, we're all in this world where we very rarely get what we want, but just like that one song, we get what we need if we try sometimes. So um yeah, and I just think that's so clear when you just take 1 second to think about it. But we don't. Like, we just want to play the victim, and I do this. Not like I'm only talking about myself to myself right now. Like, I just will sometimes play the victim because woe is me. Oh, the sky is falling. I
Tell me
didn't get that
otherwise.
job. No. Like, that cute guy didn't talk to me at the bar. Oh no. Oh no. He didn't
Right?
know. He didn't know. Like, oh my
That I was
god.
so fragile. He didn't know I was so fragile that not giving me what I wanted would destroy me. And it's like, when you put it in paper,
It
when you put
wouldn't,
it like
but
that, it just, nobody wants to be that way. Nobody wants to be that's crying at the party. Like, nobody wants to be the person who is like just a spoiled brat, because you don't like interacting with that person. You don't like interacting with the person that thinks that not only should they get what they want, but you should like giving them what they want, even if it conflicts with something you want. And it's like, I'm sorry, is happiness like am I a slave to happiness? Like to the experience of happiness that like I have that I will get to it at through all means. It is not required. And so I laugh. I laugh at the times where I am, you know, upset that I didn't get my way. And I'm like, all right, Princess Penny, it's, sorry that you don't, that you're not the center of everyone's world, that people are not revolving around you. And so I have my little crybaby moment. And then I have my, all right, time to wrap it up and move on to something else. Let's pivot. And so as much as I love getting what I want, I'm in a place now where I don't want to get what I want at the expense of others. And what I mean by the expense of others is I don't want to get what I want knowing that I am disregarding on purpose other people's feelings, other people's considerations. It just doesn't feel as satisfying to do it in that way anymore. We did have another question, how to overcome self doubt and anxiety when it comes to learning a new skill or subject. I love this. And you just are like wrapping up a yoga teacher training class. So I feel like, Jackie, over to you.
Amazing. Caught the ball, as Amanda would say. Yeah, great question. I would say it's not about overcoming the doubt and the fear and the judgment, because you can do it with all of that still there. It's just about realizing that the thing that you're doubting isn't what you are. That's the idea of yourself. That's based on your one limited perspective and your life experiences, but they're not objective truth and they don't predict what you can do at all. Take Yeah, like for example, I'm doing this yoga teacher training and I am currently dealing with a lot of doubt and anxiety. I have like my final teach on Sunday where I have to like teach an hour-long class, and I'm thinking about all different types of hypotheticals. Like I definitely, the doubt is still there, but I'm realizing that I can only ever deal with that moment once I'm in it, and that even if I'm going through it and I'm uncomfortable, I don't really know how it's going, and the only way to learn is just through that fire of uncertainty and discomfort. So, it's just about realizing that you can feel all those things and still do the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. It's it's remembering too that it could have the same experience of someone who has been doing that same skill for 10 years. And I almost feel like there's this this master bar that I expect myself to reach to some degree on day one of training. And if I'm, let's say, learning how to cook a pot of white rice and I burn it, I judge the fact that I burned the rice. And I'm like, of course we burn rice, when we're first learning how to make it. Like of course that's a high possibility of happening. It's not that I'm going to have that sensitivity to know, oh, I see the water has shifted, oh, I see the bubbles, I see, okay, 10 more minutes. I won't have the sensitivity that would come from doing that same task of 100 times when I'm doing it the first 5 times or 10 times or 20 times. It's but I feel like it's so easy to judge yourself. Like you should be as smooth and as hiccup free as somebody who has done that same task 1,000 times. And you're judging yourself on that when you're learning, and it's, no, I don't expect to paint like Van Gogh when I just pick up a paintbrush and I cover a few canvases. No, I do not expect to, you know, be able to deadlift 300 pounds in like the first month of powerlifting, right? But somehow that seems obvious, but it doesn't seem so obvious when you start a new job and you're at that new job and you judge yourself for not having the perfect first month. That's where it doesn't seem as easy to be like, oh, of course it's month one, it's going to be a little rough, we're going to have some rough edges that we're smoothing out. And and when I think of masters of a certain subject or a certain skill set, It's that it's not that they never make mistakes, is that they know how to respond to their mistakes so fast that it almost feels like they didn't make the mistake. You ever heard when somebody is dancing on stage or performing on stage, and the advice is, when you mess up, don't pay attention to the fact that you messed up the lyrics. Don't pay attention to the fact that you messed up the choreography. Keep going. The show
Mhm.
must go on, right? And it seems super obvious in theory, but then you're on stage and you mess up the lyrics and you think, oh no, I messed up the lyrics. So what? Get to the part where you remember the next verse and sing from there. Remember the
Mhm.
next piece of choreography and dance from there, because the more you focus on the misstep, the more everyone else does. But if you don't focus on that misstep, no one else will, and we'll be moving and grooving to the next step, and we won't even know that you messed up. You'll say that at the after party, and people will be like, I didn't even notice. And it's because you didn't hold on to that misstep long enough to make it the main focal point for everyone else to see.
That's a great point. Like we always hype me we me always hyperfixate on my small little missteps, and this reminds me of when I used to have my piano recitals because I grew up playing the piano, classical piano. So like very detail oriented, and performances would always scare the shit out of me because I wanted to be perfect. And I realized there were many times that I messed up during my performances. Sometimes where I messed up and just kept it rolling and like kind of stumbled my way through and then picked it up again. And even if I thought it was like extremely rough, like nobody noticed afterwards. But there was also one time in particular where I was playing and I completely forgot. I completely blanked. And I got up and walked off stage, and it was humiliating because I leaned into that like moment of hesitation and I was like, shit, I don't know, like I'm done, I guess. And
Stick a fork
so
in me.
from my experience, it's yeah, the show must go on. I learned that in theater as well. Like if you forget the line, make shit up.
Yes.
Just just and the other people will have to respond.
Mhm.
Um but but in general, in terms of our performance, the performance of life, I guess, which it's not a performance, but sometimes we feel like we're in situations where we're performing. And you're right. The sign of somebody who is a master or like has been doing it for so long because they know they're going to mess up. It's
Mhm.
just like they don't have shame about it. They're like, for example, my yoga teacher, she's amazing, incredible, has been teaching for like 25 years or something. Like she'll like mix up her rights and lefts in class or
Yes.
like will mess up the flow. And like I love how she just owns it and she doesn't apologize. She's just like, lift your right leg up, left leg high. Like she'll just fix it and like kind of laugh it off. And I find that actually to be something that's really endearing. And when I see people, honestly, in any sort of field, stumble and then get back up with grace, it's like, wow, like that honestly says more than somebody coming in and having a perfect performance because there's humanity in it. Like you can relate to them, you can connect to them. And it's a reminder to everybody else that you don't have to be perfect in order to do what you love, in order to be great at something. You don't have to be perfect. All you have to do is invest your time and be willing to face that uncertainty, be willing to face that fear of falling flat on your face. Oh, that was a lot of alliteration.
Love it.
In order to fly, you have to be willing to fall on your face a lot of times. And just knowing that you're going to be there with yourself on the ground and you're going to pick yourself back up and you're going to do it all over again because that's what life's about, right? It's just pushing outwards, seeing what you can do and trying to enjoy the experience. It's not about getting anywhere, it's just about deepening your experience of now. And I feel like my hobbies and things that I've gotten into have really helped me deepen that relationship. And it's not about going anywhere. It's just about being there and doing things for the sake of doing them.
Mhm. Yeah, it really is. It's because you can always, or at least it seems to be very clear when someone is doing the hobby or the task as a means to an end, right? They only want to paint because they want to be, they want to be in museums because they think that'll prove that they're valuable, that there's something that is special about them. And I love the idea of special. And and I was recently watching a documentary about Mr. Rogers, and it's the name of the documentary is "Will You Be My Neighbor?" And I love that show. I got to watch the reruns as a kid, and he was always emphasizing that everyone is special. And then there was a little pushback for Mr. Rogers, and they were saying that he was making an entitled generation that thinks that they're special and they don't have to earn it. They don't have to build traits and skills to make them special. And I love that he addressed that in a graduation commencement ceremony speech. And what he said was, or I'm paraphrasing, he's like, what I meant when I said that everyone was special was that you don't have to do anything extravagant to be loved. You don't have to do anything to be worthy of love. You don't have to do anything to be enough. Just I like you exactly as you are. And I love that he put that in his shows, because it was like you don't feel that enough, or not enough. You don't feel that generally. And so often I feel like I have to jump through hoops, and I have to prove that I'm worth sticking around for, that I'm worth loving, that I'm worth friendship, that I'm worth, hiring as an employee. It's like constantly proving that you're valuable. And it's like you could learn a million things and you'll still be worthy of love. You could learn one thing and still be. You could learn nothing, outside of like a specialized skill, and still like we exist here, and in this we can share that, and in sharing that there is love. And so
Mhm.
you don't have to jump through a million hoops to have meaningful connections. And so I love that he clarified what he meant by when he said that in his opinion, everyone is special. And I think, sometimes I the impression I get is that people don't want to say that everyone is special because, oh, then special means nothing. And it's like, no, it's not that everyone has to be inferior to you in order for you to be special. There is just an inherent special quality about existence, about life. There's a magical property to life, and we all exhibit that. I love the phrase that I heard, which was, life is the dancer and you are the dance. So there will never be another Jackie dance. And life is dancing it. And so it takes it apart. It feels like it makes it seem like my life is just one expression versus my life being this life or death battle scenario that I'm forging against, everything and everyone.
Oh my god, Amanda, that blew my mind. That blew my mind. The life is the dancer and you are the dance. I wrote that down. I'm going to use that in my class on Sunday. I hope you don't
Do
mind.
it. No, absolutely.
Quote
I
my
didn't. There's no plagiarism here, madam. That is not mine. Please feel free. Information is meant to be shared, and I love clever lines like that. You take it and run with it.
That's very true though. It's like everybody has the dance that they are, the specific nuance, their essence. Like their essence. Everybody has a unique like signature
Right.
energy, like you can't say what it is, but everybody has a different one and you know when you're experiencing it. And none of the other bars that we use to measure ourselves they don't actually exist. Like they don't mean anything in terms of your happiness, your peace of mind, right? Because we assume that getting to the top of these bars, these illusory comparison mechanisms that we create societally, we think getting to the top of the mountain is correlated with happiness, or it predicts happiness, but it just doesn't. And The only thing that is real is like experientially, and everybody is special. You're right. Everybody is special in the sense that they're different in their own unique way because I don't know, the universe can't make two of you, you know? Like it's always going to be slightly different. And and everyone is special, but special doesn't mean like better than everyone else. It just means unique, never seen before, unprecedented.
To
The
be
unprecedented Amanda and Jackie.
determined.
And that doesn't mean egoically, like it doesn't mean that we're better than you because also you have never existed before and you are something special and unique and you have something that I could never have, but I also have something that you could never have. And that's kind of cool, but we compare ourselves and think about what we don't have 90% of the time rather than thinking about what we do have or like what we are interested in, what the flavor that we bring to our life. Like that's what we do have influence over, but we often like hyper fixate on all the things that we're not or all the things that we can't control, almost as a means of avoidance of all the things that we know that we can control. And it's almost easier to push off that responsibility and become a little bit cynical, being like, I don't know, you can like develop this hard shell where you like judge everybody else for expressing themselves because you're too afraid of expressing yourselves. And I think that's like a epidemic, especially in my generation. Everybody's so afraid of being cringe. And it's like the cringiest thing is pretending that you're not cringe, to be honest with you. Because we all are, and we're all beautiful, and we deserve to be able to embrace both of those aspects of ourselves
Mhm.
because it's who we are. Like we shouldn't have to feel ashamed about what we are. Just it's what we are.
Mhm.
And the only reason we have issues with how other people are is because we're not cool with how we are and we're not okay within ourselves, and so we have to make that everyone else's problem.
Yeah. And we pretend that that doesn't make it the biggest problem for me, for the person that is saying it's everybody else's problem. And it's hilarious that it feels from a perspective that it's easier to push the responsibility for your feelings onto someone else, but it's brutal to live that way. It's that for me that doesn't seem like the easier choice. It may feel unpleasant now, but or something may feel pleasant now, but really it's shooting yourself in the foot. And then, cuz you think about fire, right? People may think that fire is something that is dangerous and something that needs to be controlled and it's something that is scary, but there are natural forest fires in California that literally are the catalyst for new life to grow. And so something that you can view as destructive and ugly and scary is also something that is beautiful and life enriching and just a part of the cycle. It's you life is still beautiful even if it doesn't feel beautiful, even if you don't want to say it's beautiful, even if you don't agree with it being beautiful, it is still more than just my perception of it. It's still more than my opinion of it. And I feel that way more so now because I've changed my mind so many times. And I've been like I've had such a strong stance on one side and then I changed my mind and went to the other. And I was like, well, what the hell was I thinking when I was on that side of the scale? And it's just I want to pretend that I know for sure. And I never have. And that's okay because despite not knowing, I still had many experiences that I treasure. And I was guessing and assuming, and I got to experience those wonderful moments. And there are moments that I was so sure would add to my quality of life that blew up in my face and were, you know, difficult and challenging to experience. And so when I have thought I knew what was best for me, I have been both right and wrong. When I didn't know what was best for me, I have been both right and wrong. And so it's just taking the pressure that I don't need to know with absolute certainty, with no doubt, that I can still have the fear and the doubt and the anxiety, and I can still move forward, and I don't have to focus on that fear or that anxiety. um, I love that Ray is working on a chat GPT bot for Dualistic Unity. And he asked it a question about, like, what is, let me pull it up. Someone on Reddit asked, how to accept yourself as God, with the idea that we are all God, the universe experiencing itself. How do you truly accept that level of what that really means? Such a high place of power, honor, respect. I feel uncomfortable to think of that, as if I'm being arrogant to think I'm God. Maybe this is due to the type of religious household views I grew up with, which I'm still unlearning. I don't want to continue to disempower myself by not allowing myself to truly step into myself. And our chat GPT responded, accepting oneself as an embodiment or expression of the divine, or as the universe experiencing itself, can indeed be a profound and challenging concept to integrate, especially if it contrasts with the religious or cultural beliefs you were raised with. This idea of being part of a greater whole, or even embodying the concept of God, is not about arrogance, but rather about recognizing the interconnectedness and unity of all existence. Here are some insights and steps to help you navigate this process. Understanding the concept of non duality, about transcending the notion of separation between self and other, or the individual and the universe. It implies that at the deepest level, there is no distinction between you and the divine or the universe. The next suggestion was to shift your perspective from ego to universal awareness. Moving away from an egocentric view to a universal perspective involves seeing yourself as part of a much larger interconnected system. It's about understanding that the essence of who you are goes beyond your individual personality or identity. Number three, embrace humility in your understanding. I love that word, humility. Number four, reflect on the nature of true power and honor. The feeling of power or honor associated with being one with the universe isn't about dominance or superiority. It's about the responsibility and recognition of your ability to influence and be influenced by the interconnected web of existence. Oh my God, I love our chat GPT. And this is only the beginning. This is only version one. And it's just, I love that we're designing a robot to like help you burst your bubble.
Yeah, I love how, like, concise it is, because
That's good.
sometimes when, like, these considerations are all in there, like, spinning about, and, like, I remember some of them sometimes, but it's, like, nice when you can ask it a direct question and it, like, reminds you of all the shit that you needed to be reminded of,
Mhm.
or just things that put it into perspective for you. Um, but yeah, that's amazing, and I definitely feel that Reddit user with that question. How it feels like a lot. It's a big shift for sure from seeing yourself as just the ego character to understanding that you're not just the and it's always been that way, but you just haven't been aware of it. And that doesn't mean you're not your ego character. It's still part of you, but it's not all that you are. And the perspectives that we develop through our separateness, through our ego self, they're not they're not objective reality. They're just an experience through a specific perspective, because if we really are the whole, if we are what is, obviously, because if we don't ask the question, we're just already it. We're already it when we shut the fuck up, right? We're already it when we shut the fuck up. But yeah, it's funny. We're like, how do we accept this conceptually? It's like, you don't have to. You don't have to. You're already it. But
Mhm. No.
um I guess a lot less suffering can come in when you are able to when you do recognize that, because you're like, Yeah, I feel vulnerable. My ego self feels vulnerable, but I know that at the end of the day, the reality of me is gonna be fine,
Hmm.
right? Like, it's kind
Yeah.
of accepting your own mortality, accepting your own vulnerability, surrendering to what you can't control, and then you can really give a lot less of a fuck and make a lot more use of your time and energy because you're acting as God. And so that can also be really empowering just to know and that God isn't perfect. It is, but it's not what you would think of as perfect.
Hmm.
Like the
Yeah.
world is like you mentioned earlier with the wildfires, like wildfires happen, tornadoes happen, like devastating earthquakes,
Hmm.
volcanic eruptions, all of that, tsunamis happen, all of that. And it's beautiful. You're right. It's like both of those forces of creation and destruction are perfectly balanced in this experience and it's like beautiful to watch that unfold and to watch the cycles take place and like continuing to see the evolution and yeah, even being aware of our own mortality can be scary, but I think it's fucking gorgeous. Like I think it's
Hmm.
so beautiful because it's only one of one, like this experience, this moment. And I know it's going to end. So each moment is so precious.
Yeah.
Like, as much as we all are eternal, like, I'm glad that Jackie isn't eternal, right? Like, I'm glad that, like, I'm going to have my time here in whatever this experience is. And then I'm going to keep on being everything else when I die. And that's okay. That's okay to know that I don't know how that's going to happen because I never have. And I've loved my life so far. Even all the shit that I in the moment was cursing cursing the universe for. I was like, yeah, why me? Why me? Even that stuff. I'm grateful for it. So, it's all just it's all just part of it. And there is an appreciation that can be had as once you are able to see past that fear a little bit. And that just comes with a little bit of questioning about who you think you are.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I love that question. I'm so glad that the community is contributing the questions that we're all thinking about. And so, how do I accept that I'm God, the universe experiencing itself, and do I have to be weary of the arrogance? And it's like it reminds me of the same thing of being special, right? Like you the being feeling arrogant and feeling like I'm God usually go together if I also don't think that everyone else is God. Right? That's when I feel my most arrogant, when I feel invincible, but I feel like no one else is invincible. And but but when I've had that genuine feeling of being like an invincible, unstoppable force, it's always been when everything has collapsed around me and I forged on and I kept going and I rebuilt again. And so I'm not worried that the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath me again because I know how to stand back up. I'm not afraid of falling because I know how to stand back up. I'm not afraid of starting over because we've started over a million times already. And I'm not the only one. You start over every single moment. You've started over in relationships, in jobs, in learning, in developing your character and developing your experience. Like you start over in every moment. Every moment is a blank canvas. So why are you so scared about starting again? All you do is start anew. It's just that we start again and it looks similar to another experience and you think similar is identical. That is not the case. I don't care how many times I come home. It is always a new experience when I'm coming home. The fact that I walk the same way, park in the same spot, really doesn't take away from the fact that that is a new moment. That is a new moment that I am parking in that spot at that moment, at that particular day, in whatever mindset I'm in, with whatever to do list I have on my brain. That is a new moment. Every moment that I wake up in my apartment, this is a new moment that we are in this apartment. And it the fact that it looks similar is where I have seen myself like, oh, if it's similar, it must be identical. It must be the same. It's not the same, because I could do something entirely different in this same space. So when I think about, accepting myself as God, is that God is not a person. God is not a separate entity or a separate concept in my mind to everything else. God is just another word for existence, and existence is just everything. Everything is included in existence. So it's hard for me to feel arrogant about feeling like a expression of God or an expression of the universe, in the same way that it feels foreign to feel arrogant and feeling special when I know that everything is special. Everything is existence, and every bit of existence is special, regardless if I like it or don't like it. And so it's getting harder to feel arrogant when I'm feeling less separate.
Yep. It's like I know that it can't mean anything about me, so I've kind of stopped building up the idea of the character. It's like I don't know. I even feel weird sometimes when people are like they give me a compliment or they're like, "Well said." I'm like, "Who are you talking about?" Who are you talking about? And I get where it's coming from, but
Yeah.
yeah, everything has its place. God is existence. You're right, and that includes non-existence, because if non-existence exists, then it exists
Yeah, right.
and it's included in existence. And that
Got
includes
it.
every every spectrum of duality you can think of. Like, I think we just want like only one half of this dualistic universe to exist because it's what makes us comfortable. But the reality is that both of them exist and change is always happening. And so, like you said, we choose the same things over and over because it's comfortable, even if we don't necessarily like we there's consequences to that choice that we don't like, but sometimes we think we can avoid change by making the same choice, but in reality things are still changing and that pattern is just getting more settled in. You're reinforcing it and you're exacerbating the suffering that you're going through because of it. And so every single moment is a chance to start anew. You don't have to wait for the new year.
No.
You don't have to wait until something falls from the sky. You don't have to wait for like a magical moment where you can finally take action,
Mhm.
because if you do that, it's never going to come because you're just avoiding taking that leap into uncertainty. But
Mhm.
that uncertainty is still going to be there, and even if you keep making the same choice over and over again thinking you're safe, like that's eventually going to have a consequence. And there's and the universe will kind of like smack you back in the opposite direction, the universe being yourself or just balance in general. If you invest too much in one side, you're going to get smacked over to the other side. Rather than like accepting both sides at the same time, you can stay a little bit more in the middle rather than getting like smacked and cracked around because you're not paying attention. It's
Like
like friggin' WWE SmackDown when you're like that. Imagine that like being reality, and when you're not willing to take responsibility, your eyes are closed and you're in SmackDown and somebody's like the universe is just kicking your ass, versus like if you're there and you have your eyes open, at least you can like maneuver a little bit. You can fight back.
right.
But like being a victim is going to get you nowhere in life. And in fact, it's going to make things way harder for you. So you might as well just take responsibility. And you'll find that once you do, it almost does feel like a superpower
Mhm.
because you can rise above almost like anything because it doesn't mean anything about you. And it's okay however you're feeling as well. Like, it's not about perfection. It's not about acting like God all the time,
Yeah. Like,
because why would God care how God is acting?
no, but the concept that I see a lot is like God is a dick, man. Like, like from everything that I've seen, I was like, he's not a cool like concept. I'm like, so this creature, this right, this creature, this entity creates all of us, and then knows what we're going to do and then sends us to hell for what he knows we're going to do. I'm like, so the game is rigged, and this is the guy that you want to be like? This is the guy that has rigged the game, knows what you're going to do, gives you free will. That's a trap, right? In this game, that's a damn trap. And that's what I should aspire to be. So like what? Like on paper, it makes no sense. I'm like, this just and I need to give him money every Sunday, and I need to donate things, and I need to follow these rules, and I need to judge other people, and murder's bad except if I'm fighting a holy war. Then it's okay to slaughter someone else because they believe in some other god. And I'm like, this sounds insane. It sounds absolutely insane. So the concept of God that I'm so familiar with, it always just felt like something was off. I remember spending like the entire time my mother would take me to like Jehovah Witnesses days, and I would spend like the whole time in the bathroom, in the girls' bathroom, with like a little lunchbox with like 3 sandwiches in there to like last me the 4 hours that they're worshiping in the other room. And I'm just in there with like a Nancy Drew book and my sandwich. Like, I don't know what's going on out there, but I don't want any part of it. And that's how I felt. That's how I felt at like 7 and 8. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how you guys are buying what they're selling, but you need to return that. I hope you kept your receipt. Like, it just seemed crazy, and it still seems crazy. So I'm like, no, the concept of God being this separate thing that just is there to create and judge and condemn, but has these expectations that he knows that you're not going to follow, and then punishes you for an eternity for that, is like preposterous. That's just a bad bedtime story that we just keep telling ourselves. The concept of God that I think of now is just God is just another word for existence. And existence is not lording over other pieces of existence. It's that existence exists. And I
Mhm.
will both experience enjoying that and not enjoying that. It will feel pleasant and unpleasant because it's all on the table. And so it just feels like a lot of pressure has been taken off of my shoulders. And then realizing that it was really me that brought the weight. It was really me that carried the weight, and that's okay. But I can also put the weight down, and then I can pick it back up. Because as we work out, as we pick up and drop weights, we gain strength, and so it feels like another beautiful part of this entire picture of existence. And I'm glad that I am in a moment where I'm appreciating it versus cursing the existence of existence.
Right? It's like I'm making it about as easy as I can on myself by just not thinking things need to be different. You're right. Like, that is the experience of perfection, of heaven, is letting go of any expectation, because then otherwise your experience just is what it is. And that's obviously way easier said than done, but also it's not, because in any given moment you can just drop the weight. You can just sink in. And when you sink in, that's God. Like, the concept of God isn't aspiring to be something else. You already are whole and complete within yourself. And any process, I guess, that we're going through, like, we think we need to be adding more to ourselves, but really, I think this is all about removing the layers to see what's already there underneath, and to feel like we can let that see the light of day, just knowing that we're already enough. We're already whole. we're God whether we think so or not. So, like, we can relax. We can relax a little bit. That's all that we need, you know? Like, we're going to go through shit and that's okay. We're getting stronger. We're getting stronger and we're able to move through this experience and be the dance. And rather than hyper fixating on the dancer, we're like at once we are the dancer, but we're not nitpicking every little step. We're like paying attention to what's going on in the whole room and with the crowd and with the music, and we're allowing ourselves to be part of that and interact with it. And it's way easier to do that when you're not judging yourself so hard. And then things just kind of seem to happen and align and unfold perfectly in front of you. And you're like, how is this all working out? Like, I'm literally just being myself. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's because that's what you've been trying to do this whole time. And you've been creating resistance, you've been putting on the brakes. But like, being you is the most natural thing to you, and you can just let it flow. It's okay to let it flow.
Mm.
And wow, yeah, I keep saying this, but I swear every time when we get to the end of these episodes, it's like I start as like this this is kind of a gross metaphor, but like a clogged pipe, you know, like when I'm quiet, I just have all these like thoughts or like insecurities or emotions that are bogging me down. And like when I start speaking, it's a little bit distorted, it's a little bit but then the more that I talk, like all that shit gets worked out. And then I feel like I really settle into a point where I'm flowing with it. And that happens like every single time I talk with you, Amanda. I feel like we can just go on and on for hours, and it's always going to be fun, and there's always going to be something else to talk about because we could literally talk about anything in this existence, and it exists within us. So it might have something to teach us. It could be a symbol, it could be a metaphor. There's so many things that we can draw from.
I love it.
And yeah, it's
The,
just great.
in the comments, someone writes, "Dualistic Unity, unclogging our pipes in public." And I love it. And I love it because we are. And as you were saying, I was like, yeah, but every analogy, like we want a different analogy. It's, sometimes I feel like a closed fist. And by the end of the conversation, I feel like an open palm. Like there are so many analogies that are all saying the same thing. We're going from tense to relaxed, from stress to peaceful, from caught up to free flowing, clogged and unclogged. Like we're always saying the same thing, that life doesn't have to be as stressful as we make it. And this brings me, I love our chats and I look forward to them, and I love laughing with you and chatting with you. And I'm like, if this is how I'm spending eternity, good job, Amanda. Like, we did it. Like, like, I love it. And it reminded me of a Dr. Seuss quote from one of his books, where it was like, um, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, be yourself, because the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind. And I always loved that phrasing because it always made so much sense. Like, I have definitely been called a weirdo, both to my face and behind closed doors, from people talking about me to other people. And my closest friends love that I'm weird. They love it. We're not denying the weirdness, check, absolutely. But it's not a problem for the people that enjoy hanging out with me. So the people who don't like my weirdness don't matter to me, because I don't put any weight on their opinion. I don't put any weight to how they perceive me. And the people who matter the most to me don't mind my weirdness at all. And so I don't need to be normal. I don't need to be weird or anything. I'm just being myself. And the people that resonate with that are gonna want to stick around. And and I I definitely I'm gonna pretty much just say, like, one of the insights that I had early this year that I cried about was just that, for a lot of my life, I tried to make myself good enough for someone else to stick around. Whether that meant I proved that I was good enough for you to be my friend, that I was good enough for you to make me for me to be your girlfriend or your coworker or your family member or whatever it was. I was always trying to prove that I was good enough. And I cried when I realized that, like, the people that genuinely enjoy my company, I never had to convince them to stay. Like, I never had to convince them to stay. And so it reminded me and taught me that for anybody who wants to stay, that chooses to stay, you never had to give them a reason. They made that choice for themselves. And it feels way better, or it feels way more special if I am surrounded by people that chose to stick around or chose to hang out with me all on their own and had nothing to do with me manipulating them, me convincing them, or me proving that I was good enough to stay. That felt way better. And so I'm not going to be everyone's flavor. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Everyone's not going to resonate with me, but they don't have to. And but I do appreciate the people that there is a genuine mutual resonating experience. That feels a lot better, and it feels way more meaningful that you're here, and I never had to convince you to be here, in the same way that you never have to convince me to be here to spend time with you. And that feels way better than even when you do have someone that meets your standards and stays, or you meet their standards and they stay. Like, that felt hollow. This feels so incredibly full, in a way that I can't even express how special this feels.
I completely agree. It does feel like it's almost what family should be, like, or like what I always wanted family to feel like, just genuinely loving and appreciating somebody for who they are, and love in the sense of just unconditional acceptance. And like, I see God in Amanda, and that doesn't mean I'm attached to her in any way. That doesn't mean I'm idolizing her in any way. It's just like, I appreciate you, and I appreciate our chats, and I feel like you have so much wisdom, and you're just willing to talk about shit. You're just willing to share and be open and be yourself. And I just appreciate so much when I can tell that people are kind of wearing it on their sleeve, like they're not trying to impress me. And I nowadays I can really tell when people are trying to like impress me, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like I immediately feel like weirded out by that.
Right.
um but yeah, it's like once you allow yourself to be fully who you are, and that's not, it doesn't look any certain way. It's just a feeling of relaxation within yourself, where you don't hesitate. Like when you just allow yourself to show up how you're feeling, say whatever's on your mind without trying to act in a certain way to make the other person like you. Like,
Mhm.
that's so exhausting.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but like,
Mhm.
I don't want to waste all that energy. I know you agree with me, but like, I'm saying, like, in general for the audience,
And
like,
it's
do
bittersweet.
you
Like,
want to, yeah, like, do you want to waste that energy and like have it come back to bite you in the ass later,
mhm. Oh
of
yeah.
like investing in expectation, investing in judgment? Like, that's not really making you safer. So like, as much as we feel resistance to just stepping into our authentic self and speaking our mind and sharing ourselves vulnerably, yeah, like I get that it's gonna shake shit up and it's a lot of stuff is gonna change, but like that's the change that you want. Like deep down, you want to be the fullest expression of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't want to hang out with people who don't see you or appreciate you for who you are.
No.
Nobody likes that. Like we feel alone in our relationships when we're trying to be something, because we know deep down that's not what we are. And
Yeah.
we just want to be seen and accepted just as we are. And that's what everybody wants. And so, yeah, like I'm glad I have this community, this place to just come and be and practice that. in a place where I know like it's acceptable. There are not many places where like people are willing to be this vulnerable. So I just really appreciate having this platform and just also having this time with you, Amanda, and with everybody we talk to. I find everyone so insightful and so I resonate so much with everyone's experiences because we are fundamentally having the same experience. And if D is anything, we're just a place where you can come to talk about it and we'll get it. You know, we get it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Jackie. I definitely I see you as life, as God, as existence. It's a beautiful dance. It is a beautiful just a beautiful expression of everything that you've experienced and everything that you create. And so it is a lot of fun to watch you do your thing. It is a lot of fun to chat with you. I am very much inspired by the way that you are, Jackie. And so I feel very lucky. I feel very privileged. And, when we talk about certain things or certain topics and they're just it's going to be situations where you're going to have more experience than I am and I'm going to have more experience than you in certain topics, but none of that matters because all of the lessons are shared, all of the experiences are valuable and meaningful, and I love that. I feel like a wizard and you and I are like putting our experiences together and like alakazam, we're like making these new things and we're coming like we're having these new insights, and it's just it's very fun to create existence with you and to live through it. So I love our community. I love chatting with you. I am very, very happy to be here. And so it feels like I hit the lottery. So it's so funny when we were just chatting before and I had said like on paper, my life is nothing. Like I check almost none of the boxes that I thought I was supposed to check. And we've never been happier. So it's like, it doesn't matter if your life is impressive to someone else. Is your life meaningful to you with just you in it, with no one there, no, like, and so I love or not love, but I love not when someone is going through a hardship, but when they bounce out of that hardship and then they realize that that hardship meant nothing about them. Your house burns down, but thankfully nobody gets hurt. All the pets, all the animals, all the kids, everything gets out of the house, but all your possessions are gone. Is your life over because you don't have your favorite jersey or you don't have your yoga mat or you don't? No, because you are your life. You and everything else is just and it just adds to the life that you are expressing. And so it feels really good to remind each other of that in the DU community, that you don't need the community in the same way that you don't need your friends and your coworkers to always be there to be a cushion for when things don't feel pleasant. I tell my friends, I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm not going to make you feel better all the time. Sometimes I'm going to say something and you're not going to like it. But I'm not saying it to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because maybe I think there's a consideration that's worth considering. And so I'm going to tell you that regardless if you like me saying it or not. And that's what I like about our the DU community, is that it's not a cushion for what doesn't feel right in the world. It's a shared space where we realize how strong we really are and how we were never as helpless as we thought we were. And so I really appreciate when we are vulnerable, that it doesn't feel like a moment of weakness, even if it feels like I'm having a moment of weakness. That's not it. It's just I'm letting go of something I was holding on to, some perception, some expectation that I didn't meet, that only I created to not meet. And so it's it feels very counterintuitive, but I'm really glad that we unclog our pipes both in private and in public. And but I do actually have to go. But I just wanted to just thank you, Jackie, for thank you for being here with me and for doing it for you, not for me. I love that. Be selfish. Be selfishly selfless.
Hell yeah. Hell fucking yeah, Amanda. Yeah. Closing thought. You're right. You don't have to live up to those. You don't have to check those boxes you created for yourself. You don't have to try and fit yourself into some box to be worthy. None of that. Fuck those boxes. Throw them out. All the homies hate all my homies hate boxes. Be yourself, right? Just be you. Any Oh
No, we've broken through. We've broken through.
no. Amazing. Yep. Thank you for tuning in today, everybody. It's been the pleasure of a lifetime. And Amanda, I love you. I enjoyed this chat and I can't wait to do it again soon. Next
Absolutely.
week, to be specific. Same time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be back for another live stream of Do You Real? We've done so many at this point. I don't know how many this I don't know which episode this would be, but um it's
I,
one of them.
I think it's better that we admit that we don't know. We don't know, and we're okay with that. So thank you so much, everybody. I love you, Jackie. I'll talk